House Republicans are out with a report on the Biden White House's use of an Autopen to put the president's signature on official documents. And I suppose, Holly, that the notion is that someone else was using the pen. They were just sort of using his signature there. ABC national correspondent Steve Portnoy has more on that story from Washington.
The GOP-led House Oversight Committee says it has found no record that the former president directly approved of certain documents, including pardons that carry his signature. Joe Biden has insisted he authorized his aides to use an Autopen, but the committee says it now deems some of his actions as void, and it urges the Justice Department to further probe the matter. Separately, the committee is calling on D.C.'s Board of Medicine to investigate Biden's physician, alleging Dr. Kevin O'Connor helped lead a cover-up of the former president's decline.
Well,
the House is actually doing something. I thought they were in recess.
Apparently, they have been able to do something. So, look, we got to talk a little bit about what an Autopen is. So, it's a mechanical device that is used to replicate a person's signature, right? So, you do the signature and the machine learns it, and then it can use it to sign if you're not there or whatever. But it's been used by presidents literally for decades. There's no law that governs whether a president can use an Autopen. But in this situation, so Trump has used Autopens in the past. He says they're only, quote, for unimportant papers. But it's interesting, right, because this came up in the early spring. So it would have been pretty early days in the Trump administration where President Trump was claiming that former President Biden had used an Autopen to sign some of the pardons that he issued at the end of his presidency, and therefore they were not valid.
Well, and I guess that begs another question, which is to say this: whether or not the Autopen was used, did he approve of those, or did he acquiesce in that? Maybe that's
part two of the argument, right? Yeah.
So if he says, "Well, that's something I wanted done, and I authorize the use of the Autopen," I don't know. No harm, no foul. But if we're going to set aside some pardons saying it wasn't an executive action because he didn't approve of it at the time, that's a different question. But I would think Biden would have a dog in that fight and say, hey, wait a minute, somebody signed my name without my permission. He's not saying that right now.
Correct. And he's never said that. And, you know, we have a texter who reminds us that President Trump used an Autopen to pardon people from the January 6th insurrection.
Right, yes.
The peaceful protest that became less peaceful. So it's interesting. So this committee, the Republicans committee, wants the DOJ, which is of course favorable to the Trump administration. They want the Trump DOJ to investigate additionally. So Biden has strenuously denied that he was unaware of his administration's actions, saying he knew what was going on and he gave permission for the Autopen to be used, right?
Yeah, and it's also interesting that they're attacking his doctor who said that he was actually covered up the president's decline. And I think there are a lot of people that they feel were covering for President Biden during his last year or whatever in office, that he was not all there, that he wasn't, aware of of everything that was going on, and other people were acting on his behalf or at least assisting him and covering up his decline. That, I don't know. You look at what happened. I guess when you look at that debate between he and Trump, and you think he's clearly lost a step here. That started this whole momentum. That it seemed like
a snowball.
Everything went from there. Like let's look into what he is or what he's about. I mean, I heard him speak the other day. He seemed like he was doing pretty well. He may have been reading everything, but he seemed like he was doing just fine.
So this report is like 100 pages long. It doesn't include full transcripts of the recorded testimony that witnesses delivered before the committee. So they had a lot of people coming in and testifying. And the report claims that record-keeping policies in the Biden White House were, quote, so lax that the chain of custody for a given decision is difficult or impossible to establish, which basically says they can't actually tell whether President Biden knew or didn't know about the use of the Autopen. And of course, former President Biden says he did know and he authorized the use of it. So it's just with all of the stuff that's going on with the government right now, this is what Republicans are focused on.
Yeah, and again, the House Oversight Committee is meeting. They're not voting on other things that might be important, and the speaker has sent them home for some time. But I guess this particular committee's been meeting, and they've got this major report, and we'll see where it goes. But they're actually sending it to the Justice Department for investigation. That tells me that they're looking into possible criminal charges, possible administrative charges, whatever. But going to the Justice Department means it's going to take the next step, and who would be in their crosshairs? It sounds like it would not be Biden himself, because he's sort of, if you believe the report, he's almost a victim and not a perpetrator. But I don't know who the people that would be the perpetrators are, and what the harm was created as a result of these Autopen.
Well, so what they're saying, and I guess the remedy that they're asking for is, and this is a quote from the report, barring evidence of executive actions taken during the Biden presidency showing that President Biden indeed took a particular executive action, the committee deems those actions taken through the use of the Autopen as void. So what they're saying is anything that was signed by an Autopen, unless you can specifically have a paper trail to prove that President Biden knew what was happening, that all of those would be null and void, including pardons. But of course, you've got legal experts saying, hello, broad scrutiny of executive actions like that could also come back and cause headaches for the Trump administration.
And if Biden says, I approved of all of it, what are you going to do? I mean,
they're saying you have to show us, show us the
time.
receipts, show us the paper trail. You're saying now that you approved of it, show us that you actually did at the time. So I don't know what the process is going to be as this unfolds, but certainly we have a lot of other issues, including a government shutdown now in day 28, people who aren't getting paid. There's a lot of stuff going on. In fact, when they finally come back, did we mention the national debt? It's $38 trillion. It only took 180 days to get from $37 to $38 trillion.
And isn't it supposed to gain by that amount every 6 months
it's
now?
Accelerating.
Another
it's
trillion
accelerating.
dollars.
Yeah, for sure it's accelerating. So anyway, that's the latest.
It does seem to take a lot of the attention off of other things going on.
Can we say Epstein?
Yeah,
Epstein files.
Government shutdown. There's some other things going
gosh.
on. I don't know how much time we want to spend chasing Joe Biden around. He's yesterday's news. He's gone. He's not there anymore, and I don't know what it does any but good to try to beat him up at this point.
Well, again, it's trying to overturn things that he did by executive action. Although I'll say President Trump has overturned many things already by his own executive actions. I guess they're looking to overturn some of the pardons. So
I actually had to look up Autopen, and I appreciate that you nailed it, but I'd never. Until all this happened, I didn't really. It's sort of a self-defining word, and I guess I sort of knew what it meant, but
It's I think it's interesting to look, we've always had some form of, whether it's an electronic signature or a stamp, right, to say you're not signing all those things. I'll just give you an example. So we talked yesterday with Sarah Weaver about 55 new missions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and some 85,000 missionaries, right?
Right.
They all get a mission call. They are not hand-signed by the First Presidency. I can guarantee you that is not an original signature.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
otherwise I wouldn't have anything else to do.
Right. You just sit there and sign and sign and sign until your hand falls off, right? So there have long been the use of either a stamp or an electronic signature. In this case, it's literally a mechanical signature. But that part is like, hey, come on, this is not unique to President Biden.